Hey, I want to welcome you to a very special episode of Doc Talk. We are focusing on documentary short subjects and those that have been shortlisted by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. And we are very fortunate to be joined by the director of the documentary short form Children No More Were and Gone. This is a short film that is also produced by the absolutely amazing Sheila Nevins, and we are joined by the director and producer Hilla Medalia. And Hilda, you're joining us from Tel Aviv, and this is where these protests, I want to call them a vigil rather than a protest, but this is where they started. Can you tell us how you became aware of these vigils, and when and what was the moment where you said, this needs to be put on film and people need to be aware of what's going on?
So, I mean, I'm based in Tel Aviv, and this past 2 years, I kept asking myself, what can I do? What is my role as a documentary? What can I do to stop the war and what's happening? And in March 25, after the ceasefire collapse, a group of activists starts standing with picture of children who were killed in Gaza, who were killed by Israel in Gaza. And you have to understand, we don't see in Israel the images that you see outside of Israel. It's not existing. It's not that necessarily it's being censored from up high, but there is also a lot of self-censorship. So it was really, it creates so much anger and so much reactions. And when I actually saw it, I witnessed it one time very early on. And I was so moved on one hand, and on the other hand, I couldn't stop thinking, how is it possible that for some people, just a picture of a young child that was killed is seeing almost like a betrayal. So I decided I want to document that, and I called people, and we did, and I called Sheila right away. We really started. Sheila was with us from the beginning, really pushing us to do it, actually. And we had no money. We basically went. It felt almost like our activists and our kind of mission. So almost everyone who worked on the film just really wanted to get it done.
And it's incredibly powerful. And so that folks really understand what is happening is that you have essentially volunteers or like-minded individuals who have photographs of these children. And we're talking children from newborns to maybe 8 years old, who have been killed. And you either reach out to families or you find these families on social media. They cooperate in the sense that they are willing to share pictures of their children. But folks go out onto the streets. They don't say a word, right? This is not a vocal protest. It is a silent protest. And I want you to talk about that because it is so powerful in the film, both to hear the negative space. If you understand what I'm saying, you don't hear negative space, but you see people standing silently. But then also folks, as they're being just excoriated by people who do not understand the point of the protest, yet say nothing and just accept that verbal abuse in the effort to say, look, children are being lost. These are not combatants. These are innocent victims.
So there is so much power with the silence. They don't say anything. They don't have, slogans. They don't scream. But the silence is stronger than any scream. It's like a very loud scream. So that's very strong. And we try to actually, within the film, deliver this feeling to the audience. I'm very glad that you picked up on that. And it's important to say there has been more than 20,000 children that were killed in Gaza in the past 2 years, and most of them don't even leave a trace of a photo. So these activists are really searching to find this photo, and they find them for the most part actually in places where they the families and the community put those photos to commemorate their death. So it's not on social media, actually, it's on specific places that families actually makes it available in order to remember those people. And again, it's a small amount of picked children. And so most of the kids, there is no trace of them, not even a single photo. And they work really hard to make sure the information is correct, and of course find the photo. And they only standing with this picture of a child, and and with the name of the child, where they're from, their age, and then they also have this line that's where the name of the film came. Where and are no more, or was and is no more. And sometimes it's a whole family, it's brothers and sisters, and sometimes it's a single child. And it's very strong.
Yeah, I listened to another interview you gave, and you just mentioned the title of the film, "Children No More Were and Are Gone." And in the interview, you said that that's actually a variation of a biblical term. Could you talk
Yeah.
about that and how it relates to faith, and how you're using, I don't want to say using in a negative way, but taking from a biblical term and applying it to loss in a way that perhaps would help other people who espouse to have faith understand that these victims are truly victims, again, not combatants in this war, genocide.
So this is actually the activists are using it on the posters, on the picture. They're writing this line, "Hayu ve'inam," where and are no more, and it is a biblical term, and I think they are really trying to remind people and to touch people's heart that no child should die. And that's actually also on the spiritual and a religious point of view. And they're really, that's what they're trying to do, to move people, that everyone, and I believe that no
Yeah.
child should die in a war. And I think that's why it's so strong. Like one time, that's also in the film, they tried to do a vigil. It always bothers them that there are so many children that they don't mention because they don't have a photo. So one day they decided to basically draw those kind of like flowers and
Yeah.
stand with these flowers and the names of the children that they don't have photos, or at least some of them. And it really wasn't as successful,
Mm.
because there is something in the picture when you see a child that you can connect to. And I think this is what they're trying to do in those silent vigils.
Yeah, you talk about showing these pictures of children and hoping that people can connect to it, and I hope that people do. At the same time, you capture moments, and we alluded to this earlier, where people are not just belligerent, but there's that real threat of violence. Can you talk about that? Because I think when most of us feel like, okay, we can segregate, well, maybe there's a sense that we need to defend ourselves or be aggressive. But again, you're focused on children. Talk about that if you can. The very hard reactions where people they don't acknowledge that this is about the children, and they see the protesters as almost being anti-Israeli by
Oh
even
yeah.
saying, think about what's going on.
I mean, look, it's so emotional, and I think you can see it all over the world. Especially on that topic, but also on other political issue. It becomes so heated, and you can see within families that people cannot talk to each other
Mm.
because they think differently. So imagine, this is so close to home. A lot of people know someone who lost. We went through this very difficult time. So it's so emotional, but I think it's very incredible, those activists who are basically don't say anything. And then you see how even just those photos of innocent people
Yeah.
without any words create so much anger, and so much, like, it's really almost violent reaction to them.
Mm.
So it's very difficult, but I also think it's when I watch it, it's also remind me of the need to be able to listen, even if you don't necessarily agree all the time. And it's really strong to me that even that they're being yelled at, and people say horrible things to them, they stay focused on the children and on the silence. And we premiered at Doc NYC, and someone in the audience asked them, how do you handle like within your family? And one of the activists said, we're trying to not get upset and to continue with our message, hopefully that it will open their minds, and eventually they'll understand that, we need to, this should not have happened.
Yeah, it's really incredibly powerful, those moments of silence. And even I can't even pretend to understand what is happening. I cannot pretend to understand the emotions. But as one individual is yelling down from a bridge, there's part of me, I wanted to like just zip it and move on. You've made your point. Again, in an interview that I heard, and I don't want to misstate what I think I heard, but there was an urgency from you to get this film done, to get it made, and to get it out. At the same time, when you see this film, it is incredibly well shot. It is, I think, incredibly thorough. It really shows both what these activists are trying to accomplish, as well as seeping in these moments where you feel violence approaching. I'm very curious about your process and how you were able to get this film done, get it made to your satisfaction, and get it out in front of people where sadly, and I do mean this, sadly, it is still timely. It's not a look back on what's going on. It's certainly a moment in time, but unfortunately, this loss, whether it is from the bombings, whether it is from the famine that is going on, it's still happening. How were you able to get it done and get it in front of people relatively quickly?
We started filming and we basically went week after week,
Mm.
and we felt we need to do it quickly. So we were editing as we were filming. And I mean, we finished the film in September.
Wow.
So we basically had this
Wow.
limited theatrical release to qualify it. And then suddenly we're at the shortlist of Doc NYC, and then we're in the shortlist. And of course, it's a bit challenging because some films has been around for a year at A-list festival, and we're just starting. But we felt that this film needs to be out now. And as you said, unfortunately, things are still going on, and actually the vigilies continue, and they're still standing week after week, because though there is a ceasefire, but it's still very, very, so less people are being killed, but still
Right.
there are kids that are being killed, and they're still standing till really there is a real solution and a stop to what's happening.
Have you been able to, you mentioned that film came out in September, you had a limited release, and as well as some qualifying releases. Has the film yet been able to play in Israel?
So we have not yet shown it. We are now working on showing it in Israel, and we are going to show it. It's the only places that it's shown was in the US and actually in the UK, and other screenings that we did for Academy in Copenhagen and other places. In the UK, it actually shown on Sky. So it's shown quite widely, and we are going to have a lot of screenings in Israel. Of course, the activists really want to see it, and it's going to be difficult, I'm sure, but I think it's very, very important for different reasons at different places around the world. And I wanted to add also to, if it's okay, to your previous questions about how we managed to do it. We managed to get really incredible people who their hearts are in the right place, like Avner Shachaf, who shot the film, and Erez Laufer, who edited the film, who are both also Academy members. But, we really got incredible creative people to work on the film. And I think partially also because of the urgency that we all felt that this is, there are so many stories, but that felt that it's really urgent to share it now, and and to really give this kind of stage for these kids and their memory.
What is the mood now in Israel? As you mentioned, there's a very tenuous ceasefire. Are people, again, I cannot imagine the emotions. But do you feel that people are looking at some of the protests, whether they're about the children or about the government or about the prolonged and aggressive war, where they're saying, look, we need to be more thoughtful about what's happening? Or is several years later, the emotions are still so raw. It's difficult for anyone to get outside of their bubbles of how they feel and look at the totality of what has happened. And was the response appropriate? Was it far too aggressive? And how do you move forward in terms of Palestinians and Israelis truly coexisting?
I mean, I think still it's hard to even talk about coexistence. It's still a lot of people are focusing in their pain, in their loss, in their anger, um, even feelings of revenge, and it's very difficult. And also, again, I mean, I blame a lot the media for making people blind. And it's really, I mean, for me, because I travel a lot and I look for the international news, I can see the difference. And it's really, and the activists also in the film, they talk about the fact that, the voices of these children is not existing in the media in Israel, almost at all. I mean, they're a little bit if you look for it on certain channels, but the mainstream media it's not existing. So obviously people are not able to think in a way that you would expect. I mean, and also there is a lot of internal problems that with this government. So it's important to also say, like, even before this war, there has been a lot of protests against this government. And after the war, there was a lot and more protests against this government, and that's still going on. And so I feel that a lot of people are really focused internally on what happened, on the toll of the war on the society, on their own society, and not necessarily are able yet to look at the other side. For the most part, there are, of course, people who are able, but unfortunately they're minority. But I'm hoping that a film like my film and other films and other voices will slowly kind of make the cracks, and hopefully will make a change. And of course it's a little bit, but I feel that it's part of an important process that we have to go through. And you asked me before about my goals and my plans for the film in Israel. So I am working with Albi, this organization that also supported the film, to do really like impact and outreach, and to actually have a lot of screenings that hopefully the film could support this work of these activists in a bigger way.
Well, it's an incredibly powerful film, and it looks at this genocide in a way that I had not seen before. Certainly had thought about, but to be in silence and with these children, these photos of these children, and knowing, as you say, that's only a fraction of those that have lost their lives. The name of the documentary, Children No More Were and Are Gone. This is a shortlisted documentary. And for those who are voters in the Academy, please, please, please look at this film. Once you've seen it, there's no question why it's been shortlisted. Hilla, thank you so much for joining us. And more importantly, thank you for the film. Congratulations on the shortlist. It's well-deserved. And I wish you the absolute best success, not only with the Academy, but in really changing hearts and minds. And I know that at the core, that is what this film is about. So congratulations to you.
Thank you so much. And really that's the goal, because we need to make change and to make sure that, kids and innocent people are not, can live their life. And we have to stop this war and this killing.
And you've certainly given a platform to those who are using, or I should say in this case, not using their voices to elevate these children and this loss and make people consider. Congratulations again, Hilla, and best of luck with the Academy.